The letter arrived on a Tuesday morning, slipped under Nkechi's door sometime before the sun came up, as if whoever delivered it could not bear to be seen. She almost stepped on it. She was still in her night shift uniform, still carrying the smell of the hospital canteen, overboiled rice and antiseptic, and she was so tired she nearly mistook it for a flyer. Then she turned it over, and her whole body went still. The handwriting, loopy, careful, slightly tilted to the right, a habit she had tried for years to correct, sitting on the floor of their mother's house in Aqua, guiding a smaller hand across sheets of exercise paper until the letters steadied. She would know that handwriting anywhere. She had helped build it, letter by letter, the way you help build a person. She did not open it immediately. She sat on the edge of her bed, the envelope in both hands, the ceiling fan turning its slow, tired circles above her. Her room was quiet. Outside, a motorcycle cut through the early morning dark and faded. She had not heard from her sister Amara in 11 months. 11 months! She had counted. She counted the way people count things they are trying not to be consumed by, the way you tell yourself you are not waiting and then check your phone again anyway. She finally opened it. 2 lines. Nkechi, I know you must be angry. I hope one day you will understand. That was everything. No address, no number, no explanation of what exactly Nkechi was meant to understand, or why understanding it would require 11 months of unanswered calls and messages left unread, and the specific silence that only comes from someone who has chosen not to speak. Just 2 lines in the handwriting she had helped teach, from the woman whose entire future she had bankrolled, and the faint scent of something expensive clinging to the paper. Not perfume, more like the kind of air that accumulates in rooms where money has been sitting for a long time. Nkechi folded the letter. She placed it in the drawer beside her bed, the one she kept the photographs in, the old receipts, the land documents with her name crossed out, the drawer she had not opened in months. Then she stood up, changed her clothes, and went to work. 8 years before that letter, Amara Okonkwo had been the most brilliant 18-year-old in their neighborhood, and nobody disputed it. She was the kind of girl people cited when they needed to explain what promise looked like. Not merely her exam results, which were extraordinary, but something in the quality of her attention. She noticed things. She asked questions that made her teachers slow down and reconsider. In a street full of children who studied because they were forced to, Amara studied because the world fascinated her at a cellular level, and that was an entirely different thing. Her mother used to watch Amara reading at the table and get a look on her face, not quite pride, something larger than pride, something that looked almost like reverence, the way a person looks at a thing they cannot believe they made. That one will be a doctor, Mama Okonkwo murmured more than once. That one will carry all of us. Nkechi, 7 years older and already working as a ward assistant in a private clinic in Enugu, never begrudged her sister a single word of it. She loved Amara the way the sky loves the morning, completely, without keeping score. When Amara was admitted to study biochemistry at the University of Nigeria, Nkechi danced in the kitchen. When Amara's lecturer pulled her aside in her 2nd year and mentioned that she had the profile, the focus, the sheer intellectual force to pursue medicine in England, Amara called Nkechi before she called anyone else. London, Nkechi. Her voice was shaking with something too large to be contained. Then you are going to London, Nkechi replied, with the kind of certainty that does not leave room for argument. It was not simple. It was not anywhere close to simple. Their father had been buried 4 years earlier, leaving behind a family, a name, and very little else. Their mother was alive, but fraying, a slow, grinding illness that swallowed money the way bad ground swallows rain. Amara's scholarship, when it came, was genuine and impressive and covered exactly none of the things that would actually determine whether she could go.
Accommodation, flights, visa fees, textbooks, the 10,000 small necessities that exist in the gap between acceptance and arrival. Nkechi spent 3 months with a notebook, a pen, and a calculator that had a cracked screen. She did the numbers every way she could think of. Then she did them again. When she was finished, she sat very still for a long time, looking at nothing. Then she picked up the phone and called the developer who had been pestering their family about the land. The plot in Aqua was their father's, not large, barely half an acre on the edge of town, scrubby and uncleared, but it carried his name, and therefore it carried something of him. In their community, land was not merely property, land was ancestry made solid. Land was the proof that your people had stood somewhere. Selling it was not a transaction, it was an erasure. Nkechi sold it anyway. The developer paid less than it was worth because Nkechi needed the money quickly, and people who need money quickly are never paid what the thing is worth. She took a second job the following Monday.
Morning shifts at the clinic, evening shifts at a hotel restaurant near the government-reserved area, clearing plates, sometimes helping prep in the kitchen, smiling at guests who did not look at her face. 6 days a week, sometimes 7. She came home on certain nights so depleted she fell asleep on the couch with her keys still in her hand and her shoes on, and woke before dawn stiff-necked and disoriented, already calculating how many hours until she had to be somewhere again. She sent money every month, always on the 15th, always with a short note. Sometimes the notes were funny. Sometimes they were plain and practical, but they always closed the same way. Study hard, we are all behind you. And Amara, in those first years, wrote back like her life depended on it. Long letters, then emails, then voice notes. She talked about London's cold, which was not just temperature, she insisted, but something alive, something that got underneath your skin and stayed. She talked about the cues, the pace, a professor called Dr. Osi, who had told her she had a rare gift for diagnostic reasoning. I told him my sister made it possible, Amara breathed into the microphone in one early voice note. I told him without you, there would be no me here. He asked what you were like. I told him you were the kind of person the world doesn't deserve. Nkechi listened to that one more times than she could count, more times than she would ever tell anyone. The shift began in Amara's 3rd year, so gradual that Nkechi did not name it as a shift at the time. She felt it the way you feel a change in pressure. Nothing visible, just a difference in the air. The voice notes grew shorter, then rare. The emails that had arrived twice weekly became weekly, then fortnightly, then monthly, with a breathless apology attached. So sorry, I have been buried. The content changed too, less intimate, more repertorial. Dinner parties, weekend trips, a new colleague named Oliver mentioned once, then again, then frequently, then photographed. Amara in restaurants Nkechi could not have afforded on 3 months' salary. Amara at galas. Amara in a coat that probably cost more than Nkechi's rent. Nkechi said nothing. She sent the money on the 15th. She is building a life, their mother observed one evening when Nkechi sat with her after a shift, quiet in a way she was hoping would go unnoticed. That is what you sent her there to do. You cannot be surprised that she is doing it. I'm not surprised, Nkechi murmured. Then stop looking like someone stole something from you. Nkechi said nothing to that either. She was good at swallowing things whole. But then their mother collapsed. It happened on a Wednesday, not slowly, not with warning, just a sudden total failure of the body to cooperate, and a neighbor found her on the floor and called Nkechi's number, and Nkechi was at the hospital within the hour, still in her clinic uniform, gripping a nurse's arm and demanding to know what was happening. The diagnosis was serious, the surgery was urgent, the cost was staggering. Nkechi called Amara that same night. The phone rang out. She called again,
rang out. She typed a message with trembling fingers. "Mama is in the hospital. It is serious. Please call me." Amara called back 3 hours later. She could hear at the moment the call connected, the unmistakable acoustic of a party, music underneath conversation, glass touching glass, laughter somewhere nearby. She heard her sister move through a door, and then it was quieter, and Amara's voice came through with that particular careful tone of someone managing a disruption. "What's going on?" "She needs surgery." Nkechi kept her voice flat. She had learned that falling apart on the phone solved nothing. "It has to happen soon. Amara, I can't cover this alone. The amount—" "How much?" Nkechi told her. Silence. "That is a lot of money," Amara finally exhaled. "I am aware. I'm not asking you to send everything. Half, even a third, anything." "Nkechi," a pause that felt like a door closing. "I'm still a medical student. I don't have money sitting around like that."
Nkechi was staring at the wall of the hospital corridor, that particular institutional cream that exists in every hospital in every country, as if suffering requires a uniform backdrop. She thought about the photograph she had seen on Amara's page 11 days earlier, a rooftop restaurant, candles, Oliver's arm around her shoulders, the smile of someone who has not worried about a bill in a long time. She did not mention the photograph. "All right," she breathed. "I'll manage." She managed. She borrowed from Obiageli. She borrowed from a colleague at work. She borrowed from a man in her church who gave her the money without making her ask twice, and she would spend the next 2 years paying him back in quiet installments. She sold her television, the good reading chair, a gold chain her mother had pressed into her hands after their father's funeral. She reduced herself, piece by piece, into the exact amount the hospital needed. Their mother survived the surgery. She recovered slowly, stubbornly, the way people recover when they are not yet ready to leave. And every evening, Nkechi sat beside her hospital bed, and they talked about everything except Amara, and they both performed the pretense that this was normal. Amara graduated on a Thursday in late June. Nkechi knew the date because she had searched for it. The university's website listed the ceremony schedule, and she had found it on a night when she could not sleep and had typed her sister's name into a search bar out of a longing she would not have admitted to anyone. One photograph arrived. The caption read, "Thank you for everything. I am officially Dr. Amara Okonkwo." That was it. No call, no voice note, one photograph and a caption. Nkechi looked at the image for a long time, her sister in the gown and mortarboard, the old English building behind her, the light doing everything it could to make the moment monumental. She looked at it and felt something she had no clean word for. Pride was in it, a genuine, gutting pride, but underneath the pride was something else, a grief she couldn't hold still long enough to examine. She typed a response, deleted it, typed another, deleted that too. Finally, she sent, "I am so proud of you. Papa would have wept." Amara replied with a single red heart. Nkechi put her phone face down on the table and did not pick it up again for the rest of the evening. Over the 2 years that followed, Dr. Amara Okonkwo assembled the life everyone had imagined for her, and she assembled it with remarkable efficiency. A residency at a teaching hospital in South London, a consultation position that came with a salary that would have been incomprehensible to the girl who had grown up sharing a room in Aqua. A flat in a neighborhood's name appeared in weekend supplements. And Oliver Asante Mensah, cardiologist, British Ghanaian, charming, polished, and from a family that owned things.
Nkechi watched all of it from the outside, through a screen, the way you watch someone through a window you no longer have the key to enter. The calls had stopped, not abruptly. There had been no fight, no declared ending, They had simply reduced and reduced and reduced until there was nothing left to reduce, and by the time Nkechi noticed their complete absence, it had already been months. She sent messages. Some received replies, warm on the surface, weightless underneath, the conversational equivalent of a hand wave from a passing car. She mentioned their mother's medication. She mentioned her own exhaustion, once, briefly, because she was so tired she forgot to edit herself. She mentioned, in one message she stared at for a long time before sending, that she had not taken a single day of rest in over a year.
The response was a bank transfer, £200. £200. Nkechi stared at the notification on her phone with a feeling she could not locate inside herself. Not anger exactly. Anger would have been cleaner, easier to name. This was something older and rawer. This was the feeling of being reduced to a figure on a ledger. This was the feeling of being managed. She did not reply for 4 days. When she finally did, she wrote 2 words, "Thank you." She did not mention the land. She had never mentioned the land to Amara, not the sale, not the price, not the developer's too eager handshake, not the 10 minutes she had given herself to cry in the car before starting the engine. She had not shared any of it, not because she was secretive, but because she had done it freely, out of love, without contract, without the expectation of a receipt. But free did not mean costless.
It was Obiageli who finally refused to be quiet about it. Obiageli had always been direct in the way rivers are direct. She went where she was going, and she did not apologize for the path. She had watched this slow catastrophe from the sidelines for 2 years with increasing frustration, and one Sunday afternoon she arrived at Nkechi's flat with a bag of fruit and an expression that meant she had come to say something. She sat at the kitchen table. She put down the bag. She looked at Nkechi the way a doctor looks at someone who has been refusing treatment. "When did she last call you?" Obiageli opened. No preamble. Not reply to a message. Call. "She's in the middle of—" Nkechi, when? The silence stretched. Nkechi was at the stove, her back turned, pretending to be occupied. "She's building something over there," she finally offered. "She is," Obiageli agreed, her voice hardening. "And what are you building? What has any of this cost you? You sold your father's land, Nkechi. You borrowed money you're still repaying. You worked yourself down to the bone for years. And she sends you £200 and a heart emoji, and you act like that is something to be grateful for? I'm not performing gratitude. You're performing patience when what you actually are is heartbroken." Obiageli leaned forward. "And I understand why you keep defending her. I do. You love her. That is not the problem. The problem is that your love has become very convenient for her and very expensive for you, and she has stopped noticing the difference." Nkechi turned around then. Her eyes were dry. They were always dry when she needed them to be. It was one of the things she had perfected over years of being the one who held things together. "What exactly do you want me to do?" she asked, her voice very measured. "Call her and present an invoice, line by line? The land, the jobs, the borrowed money, Mama's surgery, the promotion I turned down? You cannot put a price on what you gave someone and then wave it in their face. That is not love. That is a transaction." "Maybe," Obiageli countered quietly. "But she should call, Nkechi. She should come home. Not when she needs something, just because you exist. And the fact that she doesn't—" She stopped. She pressed her lips together. "The silence is a message. You've been reading it for 2 years and choosing to hear something different." After Obiageli left, Nkechi sat alone in her kitchen for a long time. The generator outside hummed its low, monotonous note. She did not cry. She simply sat, very still, with the particular stillness of someone who has heard something true and needs time to decide what to do with it. 6 weeks after the letter, on a Thursday evening in October, her phone lit up with a UK number. She was at home.
She had cooked, actually cooked, not reheated, not eaten standing over the counter, because she had promised herself she would do that at least once a week as a reminder that she was a person and not merely a function. She was sitting with her food when the screen glowed. She stared at it through 2 full rings, then she picked up. "Nkechi?" Amara's voice, older, polished by years of English corridors and hospital wards and the particular accent that forms when you spend long enough trying to be heard in rooms that did not expect you. But beneath the polish, something fragile, something close to cracking. "Amara, I know this is..." A short breath. "I know I have no right to just call. I know that. But I need to talk to you, and I have been sitting here for 3 weeks trying to find a way to do it, and I cannot keep..." Her voice broke slightly, held, continued. "I'm coming home." Everything in Nkechi went very quiet. "When?" she asked. "Next weekend. Oliver and I. It's over. We ended things." A pause that held entire rooms inside it. "Nkechi, I need to come home." "Okay," Nkechi replied. Not, "I have been waiting," not, "Do you know what you have done?" Just, "Okay," because she was not yet sure what else she had the strength to carry. "Are you angry with me?" Amara pressed, and her voice had gone small in a way Nkechi had not heard since they were children, the voice Amara used when she had done something she already knew was wrong and was not yet ready to name it. "I'll see you when you get here," Nkechi answered. She hung up first. She hadn't planned to. She just did. She drove to the airport alone. Not because she had forgiven everything, not because the weight of the last few years had somehow lifted in the week between the call and the arrival, but because she was the older sister, and the older sister drives to the airport. It was simply who she was. She saw Amara before Amara saw her, across the arrivals hall, rolling a suitcase that looked expensive, and moving with the posture of someone who had been strong for a very long time and was quietly falling apart beneath the surface. Thinner than the photographs, shadows beneath the eyes, the particular diminishment of a person who has been living at a high pitch and has just come down off it. They stood 2 feet apart and looked at each other. "You look the same," Amara breathed. "You don't," Nkechi replied. Direct, not cruel, just true. They drove back in a silence that had weight to it. Lagos traffic closed around the car like water around a stone. Amara kept looking out the window at the hawkers threading between lanes, the buses with their painted slogans, the sheer living noise of the city, with an expression Nkechi couldn't fully read. Hunger, maybe. Something like remorse. "I forgot how alive it is," Amara murmured, almost to herself. "It was always alive," Nkechi replied evenly. "You just stopped looking." Amara flinched. It was small, barely a movement, but Nkechi saw it. They were silent again. A long stretch of road, a junction, a truck leaning on its horn. Then Amara turned from the window. "I am sorry," she began, and her voice was unsteady now, the polish gone. "I know that is not enough. I know 2 words cannot cover it, but I need you to know that I am not someone who forgot you. I never forgot you, Nkechi. I just..." She exhaled sharply, like someone who has been holding their breath for a long time and has finally admitted it. "London changes you. Not all at once. Gradually, you get into those rooms, those circles, those people, and everything that came before starts to feel like something that belongs to a different person. And I let it. I let it happen because it was easier than carrying both worlds at once. Because every time I thought about home, really thought about it, I felt how much I owed, and instead of coming toward that feeling, I ran from it. I told myself you were fine, because you are always fine, because Nkechi is made of something harder than the rest of us." She stopped. She was crying now, not loudly, not dramatically, but steadily, the way someone cries when they have been holding it in for a long time, and the body has simply run out of space. "I'm not made of something harder," Nkechi said quietly. Her eyes stayed on the road. The car went silent again. The generator hum of the city filled the space between them. "Mama's surgery," Amara whispered. She said it like a confession. "I could have helped. I told myself I couldn't, but I had the money. I had enough. I was afraid if I came back into the reality of what things cost, I would not be able to get back out. So I made myself small in that moment, and you had to make yourself even smaller to compensate." Nkechi pulled up to a traffic light. She looked at her hands on the steering wheel. "I sold Papa's land," she said. The words sat in the car like something physical. "To a developer, for less than it was worth because I needed it quickly. I never told you. I didn't want you to feel the weight of it while you were trying to build something. But you said you want to understand, so that is part of understanding. The land is gone. I worked 2 jobs for 3 years. I turned down a promotion because accepting it would have meant moving to Lagos and disrupting the monthly transfer. I borrowed money for Mama's hospital bills and paid it back for 2 years. I did all of it willingly. I would do it again, but Amara," her voice cracked for the first time, just fractured, clean like a line in glass. She pulled it back. "The land cost something real. It cost something I cannot name properly, and I need you to know that." What followed was not silence. It was something denser than silence. Amara had gone completely still beside her, and when Nkechi finally glanced over, her sister's face had collapsed in a way she had never seen before. Not crying now, something beyond crying, the expression of someone who has just understood the full dimensions of what they did. "Nkechi, don't. Not harsh, just firm. When we're home, we'll talk." Their mother was sitting in her chair when they walked through the door, as if she had been waiting, which she had been, because Mama Okonkwo always knew when something important was approaching, and she prepared for it the way she prepared for everything, seated, composed, and completely undeceived. She looked at Amara for a long moment. Amara stood in the doorway with her expensive bag and her ruined face and her eyes that were trying very hard to say everything at once. Mama Okonkwo opened her arms.
Amara crossed the room in 3 steps and went into them, and whatever composure she had left dissolved entirely. She was sobbing, openly, without restraint, the kind of crying that has been waiting for years for permission. Their mother held her. She did not say, "It's all right." She did not say, "Don't cry." She held her and stroked her hair, and after a long moment she spoke into the top of her daughter's head. "You took too long," she said simply. "I know, Mama, I know. Your sister has been holding this family since before it was her turn to hold it. Not accusing, just stating. You know that now." "I know." "Good. 2 firm pats on the back. Then you know what comes next." They sat on the veranda that night, Nkechi and Amara, after the food and after their mother had gone to bed. The neighborhood had reduced itself to its night sounds, a radio from somewhere, the bark of a dog, the distant groan of a generator. Amara talked for a long time, not excusing herself. She had moved past excuses somewhere on the road from the airport. She was explaining, which is a different thing. The loneliness she had not expected in London, the pressure to be legible to people who had no framework for where she had come from, the way Oliver's world had offered her the sensation of belonging so completely that she had allowed it to replace what she already belonged to. The way success, when it arrives after deprivation, has a gravity of its own. It pulls everything toward itself and away from what came before. "That doesn't work as an excuse," she said, before Nkechi could. "No," Nkechi agreed, "it doesn't. I know. But I understand it," Nkechi continued after a moment.
I'm not standing here pretending I don't understand how that happens to a person. I'm just telling you it happened to you at my expense and at Mama's expense, and that the next time you feel that gravity pulling you away, you have to choose to resist it, because you are capable of that. You have always been capable. Amara was quiet, absorbing it. I want to fix things, she finally said, not with an apology, with action. Mama's medication? Every month I'll cover it, completely. I want to look at what else you've been carrying alone, and I want to carry some of it. And, Nkechi, she stopped. Her jaw tightened. The land? I can't bring the land back, but I want to find another way, something real. I've been thinking about it since the car. Nkechi looked out at the dark street. A bat cut through the edge of the light above the gate. Start with Mama's medication. That's what matters most right now. Okay. And call me, not messages, your voice, every week. Yes. And come home, not when things break. Come home when everything is fine. Come home for nothing in particular. Do you understand what I mean? I do. Nkechi was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice had changed, softer, less armored. I watched you from the day you were born. You were always the extraordinary one. I always knew it. I used to look at you reading at that table and think, this person is going to do something the world hasn't seen yet. And I wanted to be part of making that happen. I wanted it the way you want things for people you love, not for what it gives you back, just because it would be true, because you becoming who you were supposed to be would be worth it regardless. She stopped. The ceiling of the veranda was dark above them. I just needed you to remember that I existed while you were becoming it. Amara reached across and took her hand. She held it the way younger sisters hold the hands of older ones, the way you hold something that has always been there and that you nearly lost through carelessness, that you are now holding more carefully because you have finally understood what carelessness costs. I remember you, she said. I have always remembered you. I just handled the memory badly. Nkechi looked at their joined hands for a long moment. Okay, she said.
It was the same word she had been using all evening, but this time it held something different. This time it meant, I see you trying, and trying matters. This time it meant, the wound is real, and the healing will be slow, and I am willing to stay in it with you. This time it meant, underneath everything else, beneath the anger and the grief and the years of quiet endurance, that love this deep does not die. It bruises, it waits, it gets very quiet sometimes, quiet enough that you think it is gone, but it is still there when you come looking for it. It was still there. 3 months after that night, on the 15th, Nkechi's phone showed a transfer notification from a London bank account. The amount was enough to cover their mother's medication for the entire month, with a small surplus. No accompanying message, just the transfer, and then, 2 minutes later, a call. Nkechi was in the clinic canteen, her lunch going cold beside her. She answered immediately. "Did it come through?" Amara asked. "It did." "Good." A breath. "How is Mama this week?" "Stronger. She argued with the television for 20 minutes yesterday about a cooking program. I consider that full recovery." Amara laughed, a real laugh, the unguarded one, the one that sounded exactly like the girl who had once asked so many questions that her teachers had started calling on other students just to catch a break. "That is the best news I've heard all week." "How are you?" Nkechi asked. "Getting there. I started seeing a therapist, twice a week. She keeps steering us toward my attachment patterns, and I keep steering us back to you." "What are you telling her?" "That you are the most generous person I have ever known," Amara replied steadily.
and that I mistook generosity for inexhaustibility and spent years extracting from it without refilling anything. She told me to stop talking about you in her office and start talking to you directly. A pause. So I'm talking to you directly. Nkechi looked up at the ceiling of the canteen. Somewhere across the room a tray clattered, and someone apologized. "You're talking to me," she confirmed softly. "Every week," Amara said. "Every week from now. And I'm coming home for Christmas. Not as an occasion, just to be there." "Okay," Nkechi said. And this time, finally, the word meant everything it had been waiting to mean. The drawer beside Nkechi's bed still held all of it. The photographs, the land documents with the name that no longer applied, the letter with its 2 lines. She had not thrown any of it away, and she would not. Some things you keep not because they are pleasant to look at, but because they are accurate, because they are the true record of what you cost and what you chose and who you became inside the choosing. She had become someone who loved past the point of return, someone who gave without guaranteed receipt and stayed when leaving would have been justified. Someone who forgave not because the wound was small, but because the sister on the other side of it was still, beneath everything, worth the work. And on the 15th of the month, she no longer sent anything. She received a call. If this story found something in you, if you have ever been the one who gave everything and waited in the quiet for someone to notice, or if you have ever been the one who waited too long to come back, leave a comment below. Tell me what it brought up for you. Your story deserves to be heard just as much as this one does. And if you believe in storytelling that honors the real weight of African family life, the sacrifice, the silence, the long road back to each other, please like this video and subscribe to this channel. There are more stories coming, stories that will sit with you. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss them, and I'll see you in the next one.